What happens when Hollywood's most outspoken actress meets daytime television's most controversial host? What begins as a simple interview about charity work suddenly spirals into one of the most explosive confrontations daytime TV has ever seen? You're about to find out, because what started as a routine appearance on The View turned into an absolute disaster. One that ended with Charlize Theron storming off set and Joy Behar scrambling to contain the chaos she had unleashed. Before we dive into this incredible story, make sure to hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below, because you're definitely going to want to share your thoughts on what happens next. It was supposed to be a straightforward promotional appearance. Charlize Theron had been scheduled for a short segment to discuss her latest film and her humanitarian work in Africa. Producers had briefed Joy Behar extensively beforehand, emphasizing that the conversation should remain light and positive, focusing on Charlize's charitable foundation and her upcoming movie release. But Joy had other plans. The tension began the moment Charlize walked onto the set. While the other hosts, Whoopi Goldberg, Sarah Haynes, and Sunny Hostin, greeted her warmly with genuine smiles and welcoming gestures, Joy's expression remained cold and calculating. She barely acknowledged Charlize's entrance, instead shuffling through her notes with an almost predatory focus. "Welcome back to The View, everyone," Whoopi announced as they returned from commercial break. "We're here with Academy Award winner Charlize Theron, who's here to talk about her incredible work with children in Africa and her exciting new thriller hitting theaters this weekend." Charlize, radiant in a tailored navy blazer, smiled genuinely at the camera. "Thank you so much for having me, ladies. I'm always excited to be here. So tell us about this foundation," Sarah began warmly. "You've been working with children in South Africa for over 15 years now." "That's right," Charlize replied, her eyes lighting up with passion. "Why focus on education and healthcare access in underserved communities? It's incredibly rewarding work, and so far we've been able to build 12 schools and 3 medical clinics." Suddenly Joy leaned forward, interrupting the natural flow of the conversation. "That's interesting, Charlize, but I have to ask, with all the problems we have right here in America, don't you think it's a bit hypocritical to be sending money overseas when we have homeless children in our own backyard?" The studio fell silent. Sunny and Sarah exchanged uncomfortable glances, while Whoopi's eyebrows shot up in surprise. Charlize's smile faltered slightly, but she maintained her composure. "Well, Joy, I think compassion doesn't have borders," Charlize responded diplomatically. "I was born in South Africa, so this work is deeply personal to me. But I also support numerous American charities, including organizations that help homeless youth right here in New York." Joy wasn't satisfied. She pressed on, her tone noticeably condescending. "But doesn't it seem convenient that Hollywood celebrities always want to be saviors in exotic locations, where they can get great photo opportunities, rather than dealing with the gritty reality of American poverty?" Charlize's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "I'm sorry, Joy, but I don't appreciate the implication that my humanitarian work is some kind of publicity stunt," she said firmly. "I've been quietly supporting these communities long before I ever spoke about it publicly." "Oh, quietly?" Joy laughed sarcastically. "Is that why there are photographers at every one of your charity visits?" Whoopi attempted to step in. "Joy, maybe we should." No, it's fine," Charlize said, her voice steady but now edged with steel. "I want to address this. You seem to have a very cynical view of charitable work. The photographers you're referring to help raise awareness and funding for these causes. Every dollar that publicity brings in goes directly to helping children who desperately need it." Joy leaned back in her chair with a smirk. "Right. And I'm sure it has nothing to do with maintaining your image as America's sweetheart, while you make millions playing tough action heroes." The other hosts looked visibly mortified. Sarah tried to change the subject. "Charlize, your new movie looks incredible. Can you tell us about—" "Actually," Joy interrupted again, "I want to know more about these action roles. Isn't it a bit ironic that someone who claims to be all about peace and helping children spends most of her time on screen killing people and blowing things up?" Charlize took a deep breath, clearly struggling to maintain her composure as the atmosphere in the studio grew heavier by the second. "Joy, I'm an actress. I play characters in fictional stories," Charlize said evenly. "That is completely different from real-life humanitarian work. I'm not sure why you're trying to manufacture a contradiction where none exists." "I'm just pointing out the hypocrisy," Joy replied, her tone coated in false innocence. "You can't have it both ways, sweetie. You can't be Mother Teresa during the day and Furiosa at night." The condescending use of sweetie was the first visible crack in Charlize's composure. Her eyes flashed with anger, though her voice remained tightly controlled. "First of all, don't call me sweetie," she said. "Second, you are deliberately misrepresenting what I do and why I do it." Joy's smirk widened. She sensed she had hit a nerve and pushed harder. "Oh, I'm sorry if I touched a sensitive spot. I just think our viewers deserve to know when celebrities are being authentic, and when they're just playing another role." "Are you questioning my authenticity?" Charlize asked, her voice dropping to a dangerously quiet register. "I'm questioning whether your charity work is genuine concern or just very expensive PR," Joy shot back without hesitation. Whoopi jumped in, clearly alarmed. "Okay, ladies, let's take a step back." "No, Whoopi," Charlize said firmly, never taking her eyes off Joy. "I want to hear more about what Joy thinks she knows about my motivations and my character." Emboldened by what she mistook for weakness, Joy went for the kill. "Look, Charlize, I've been in this business for decades. I've seen countless celebrities use charity work as a shield against criticism, an easy way to polish their image when they need good press. And you think that's what I'm doing?" Charlize asked, her voice now ice cold. "I think you're a very smart woman who knows exactly how to work the system," Joy replied with a patronizing smile. The other hosts sat in stunned silence as the tension in the studio reached a breaking point. Charlize slowly placed her hands on the table, her knuckles white with the effort of restraining her temper. "Joy," she said, her voice slicing through the silence like a blade, "you need to be very careful about what you say next, because you are about 30 seconds away from crossing a line you won't be able to uncross." Joy mistook the warning for weakness and doubled down with reckless confidence. "Oh, am I making you uncomfortable? Good. Maybe it's time someone asked the hard questions instead of fawning over your latest movie." "Hard questions?" Charlize repeated, in disbelief. "You call personal attacks and baseless accusations hard questions? That's not journalism, Joy. That's mean-spirited gossip. I call it holding celebrities accountable." Joy snapped back. "Sorry if you're not used to someone who won't kiss your ring." Sarah Haynes looked she wanted to disappear under the table, while Sunny Hostin stared at Joy with barely concealed horror. Whoopi made another desperate attempt to regain control. "Whoopi, please." Charlize interrupted calmly, her gaze locked on Joy. "Let her finish. I want to hear exactly what she thinks she's accomplishing here." Joy leaned forward aggressively. "What I'm accomplishing is showing our viewers that not everyone in Hollywood is who they pretend to be. Your sweet, charitable persona, it's just another performance, isn't it? You want to talk about performances?" Charlize replied, her voice dangerously calm. "Then let's talk about yours as a journalist. Because what you're doing right now isn't journalism, assassination based on absolutely nothing." "I have sources," Joy claimed defensively. "What sources?" Charlize demanded. "Name them. Give me one concrete example of how my charity work is fake or self-serving." "Just one." Joy faltered, visibly scrambling for footing. "Well, there are people in the industry who, Charlize pressed. "Who told you the schools we built are fake? Who said the medical supplies we provide don't exist? Who claimed that the hundreds of children we've helped gain access to clean water and education are just props in some elaborate publicity stunt?" The desperation in Joy's eyes was now obvious to everyone watching. She had backed herself into a corner. But instead of backing down, Joy chose to go nuclear. "Look, I don't need to prove anything to you," she said, puffing herself up with false bravado. "Everyone knows celebrities who get involved in African charities are usually just trying to make themselves feel better about their privileged lives. It's like emotional colonialism." The studio audibly gasped. Even members of the production crew behind the cameras could be heard murmuring in shock. Charlize's face drained of color, then flushed crimson with rage. "Emotional colonialism," she repeated, her voice trembling with fury. "Did you just accuse me of emotional colonialism for helping children in the country where I was born?" Joy realized she'd gone too far, but pride wouldn't let her admit it. "I'm just saying maybe those communities would be better served by local solutions instead of Hollywood interventions." "Local solutions?" Charlize shot back, her voice rising. "Joy, do you have any idea what you're talking about? Do you know anything about the communities I work with? Do you understand the economic and political challenges these regions face?" "I understand enough," Joy said stubbornly. "No, you clearly don't," Charlize snapped. "You're sitting here making ignorant, offensive statements about work you've never researched, places you've never visited, and people you've never met, and you're doing on national television." Whoopi tried once more to step in. "Ladies, I think we need to—" "Whoopi, I'm sorry, but I need to finish this," Charlize said firmly. "Joy, you want to question my authenticity? Fine, let me tell you what's authentic." Her voice cracked as emotion poured through. "What's authentic is the little girl in Johannesburg who can read now because of the school we built. What's authentic is the mother who didn't lose her son to a preventable disease because of the clinic we funded. What's authentic is a community that has clean water for the first time in generations because of the wells we dug. Joy tried to interrupt, but Charlize raised her hand. I'm not finished. You want to know what else is authentic? I have never once used a single child or family for a photo opportunity without their explicit consent, and without ensuring they directly benefit from that exposure. Every dollar of publicity value goes back into the programs. I don't take a salary, I don't take expenses, and I don't take credit that belongs to the local teams who do the real work. Well, that's very noble of you, Joy said sarcastically, still refusing to back down. Noble? Charlize's voice broke. Joy, there's nothing noble about it. These aren't strangers to me. This is my home, these are my people. And you're sitting here suggesting that caring about my own community is some kind of performance art. The raw emotion finally reached the rest of the panel. Sarah looked close to tears. Sunny stared at Joy with open disgust. But Joy wasn't done. In what would prove to be the biggest mistake of her career, she pushed one final button. Your people, Joy said with a mocking laugh. Charlize, you're a multimillionaire who lives in Malibu. You haven't been one of those people for decades. You're playing dress up as a humanitarian, but at the end of the day, you go home to your mansion while they're still living in poverty. The studio plunged into complete silence. Everyone in the room knew Joy had crossed the ultimate line. Charlize sat perfectly still for a long moment, her jaw clenched so tightly the muscles in her face visibly strained. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper, yet it carried more fury than any scream ever could. How dare you, she said, how dare you? Joy, finally grasping the magnitude of her mistake, tried to backtrack. Charlize, I didn't mean. Charlize cut her off, standing so abruptly that her chair rolled backward across the floor. You meant exactly what you said, she snapped. You just didn't expect to get called out for it. She towered over the panel, her entire body radiating controlled fury. You want to talk about what I go home to? Let me tell you what I go home to. I go home to sleepless nights worrying about funding programs that keep children alive. I go home to phone calls at 3 in the morning, because there's been a crisis and people need help. I go home to photographs of kids I've watched grow up, some of whom didn't make it to their 10th birthday. Joy opened her mouth to respond, but Charlize wasn't finished. Her voice grew stronger, more impassioned with every word. You think my wealth disqualifies me from caring about poverty? You think my success means I've forgotten where I came from? She demanded. Joy, I've seen more real poverty, real suffering, and real hope than you've seen in your entire career sitting behind this desk, making snide comments about people who are actually trying to make a difference. Charlize, please sit down, Whoopi pleaded. Charlize ignored her completely. And another thing, Joy, she continued, pointing directly at her. You want to question my authenticity? Then let's talk about yours. What have you done lately besides tearing down people who are actually working to solve problems? When was the last time you used your platform to highlight a cause that matters instead of stirring controversy for ratings? Joy's face turned bright red and stubborn anger. That's not fair, Charlize. My job is to ask tough questions. Your job, Charlize shot back, is supposed to be informing and engaging your audience, not ambushing guests with personal attacks based on nothing but your own cynicism and jealousy. Jealousy, Joy sputtered. I don't know, Joy. You tell me. Charlize replied coolly. What is it about me that bothers you so much? Is it that I've managed to have a successful career without becoming bitter and mean? Or that I can actually sleep at night, knowing I'm helping people instead of hurting them? The other host sat frozen. Sarah stared down at the table. Sunny shook her head in disbelief. Whoopi looked like she wanted to disappear. Realizing she was losing badly, Joy made one last desperate attempt to regain control. You know what, Charlize? I think this conversation proves my point perfectly. The mask is finally off, and everyone can see the real you. Charlize laughed, but there was no humor in it. The real me, she said. Joy, this is exactly who I am. I don't tolerate bullies, especially bullies who attack people for doing good in the world. If standing up to you makes me look bad, then I'm perfectly fine with that. You're having a complete meltdown on national television, Joy said weakly. Am I? Charlize turned directly to the camera. America, you be the judge. I came here to talk about helping children get access to education and healthcare. Joy Behar decided to turn it into a personal attack session, questioning my motives, mocking my charity work, and suggesting that caring about the community where I was born is somehow fake or self-serving. She turned back to Joy, her eyes cold. You want to see a meltdown? A meltdown would be me stooping to your level and attacking you personally. But I won't do that, Joy, because unlike you, I don't get satisfaction from tearing people down. Joy tried once more to salvage the moment. Charlize, I think you're overreacting. Overreacting. Charlize's voice rose sharply. Joy, you accused me of emotional colonialism for helping children in my birth country. You suggested my entire foundation is a publicity stunt. You mocked the idea that I could genuinely care about people less fortunate than myself. And you did all of it without a single fact to back up your claims. The studio audience, silent until now, began to murmur. Some nodded in agreement with Charlize, others sat stunned by the spectacle. I was just trying to have an honest conversation, Joy said weakly. An honest conversation? Charlize repeated incredulously. There was nothing honest about what you did. You came into this interview with a predetermined agenda to attack me. And when I defended myself with facts, you doubled down with even more offensive accusations. Whoopi finally found her voice. Charlize, please, let's try to— No, Whoopi, Charlize said firmly. I'm done trying. Joy has made it very clear she's not interested in a respectful discussion about important issues. She's more interested in creating drama than addressing the reality that children need help. Charlize began unhooking her microphone, her hands shaking. You know what the saddest part is? She added quietly. Joy, you had a platform today to actually learn something. You could have asked questions. You could have listened. You could have used this moment to help people. She looked around the table one last time. Instead, you chose cruelty. With that, Charlize stepped away from the panel, leaving behind a studio frozen in silence and a confrontation no one would forget. About the specific programs we run, the challenges we face, and the successes we've had. You could have used this time to raise awareness for causes that desperately need visibility. I was asking legitimate questions. Joy protested. No. Charlize said calmly as she unclipped the microphone pack from her belt. You were performing. You were putting on a show at the expense of work that actually matters. And for what? So you could have a viral moment. So you could trend on social media. She placed the microphone carefully on the table. Well, congratulations, Joy. You got your moment. Charlize looked at each host one last time. To Sarah and Sunny, she gave a respectful nod. To Whoopi, she offered a small apologetic smile. To Joy, she gave nothing but cold contempt. Ladies, she said formally, thank you for having me. Then her gaze returned to Joy. And Joy, I hope someday you find something in your life that brings you joy besides making other people miserable. With that, Charlize Theron walked off the view set with her head held high, leaving behind a stunned panel and one visibly shaken Joy Behar, who in that moment, seemed to realize she might have just made the biggest mistake of her television career. So there you have it, the moment Charlize Theron dismantled Joy Behar with nothing but composure, facts, and righteous anger. What did you think about how Charlize handled this impossible situation? Was she right to walk off, or should she have stayed and tried to work things out? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.